Is this live on YouTube or is it live on my computer? Let me see. It's some news coming out. A lot of it. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, looks like we're directly streaming to YouTube. Cool. All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Sir Hunt's Reviews. My name is Mark, and in this quick live stream, I don't know how long it's going to be. It's been 22 seconds right now. Maybe another 3 seconds. 3 minutes. Social media, please. Twitter, Sir_Hunts. Instagram, Sir_Hunts_Reviews. Here on YouTube, Sir Hunt's Reviews, but you're already watching me, so you already know that. I got to make a Harry Potter video, too. Woo! Let me do it proper like. Let me do it all proper like. Let me do it all proper like. Fuck yeah. A Song of Ice and Fire is the greatest book series of all time. If you don't believe me, why does HBO keep pumping out these goddamn sequels? Now, this is really exciting. Let me get serious here. This is extremely exciting because no other show has moved forward in the sense that it's greenlit. We're getting at least one season of Dunk and Egg. This is amazing because, for one, another show. Obviously, this world is growing. But for two, the biggest complaint I saw people saying about the Aegon series kind of moving forward, but officially just being announced, right, is that time period is kind of bored. Well, guess what? Guess what? This is the most interesting time period. Aside from the main series, the Blackfyre Rebellions, the time period surrounding them, aside from Aegon's Conquest, Dance of the Dragons, this is perfect. It's gonna make for great TV. All right, so let me read the article. This is from Variety.com. HBO. I guess I'll say this first. HBO and Warner Media, and Discovery merged. Right. There's a new streaming service. Kind of pisses me off a bit because I'm paying, what is it, like 15 or something now? I'm going to have to pay more money just to get the non-ads, which is stupid. But anyway, they're going to be known as Max, and they confirmed the Harry Potter series is moving forward. Remember, it's just rumors last week, but now it's confirmed they're moving forward. J.K. Rowling signed a deal, so that's awesome. But the Dunk and Egg news is insane. This is nuts. I remember for the longest period of time, well, not the longest period of time, when they first announced it, we hadn't really heard anything about it. And then, we hear all these other things like the Jon Snow show, House of the Dragon Season 2, House of the Dragon in general, the Season 2 being shorter. You hear all this other news, but we didn't hear nothing about Dunk and Egg until now. So that's really exciting. Shout out to everybody in the chat, too. Claudia Harras, System of a Fox, Miss Lady, and Bubba45, who claims that I fucking blocked him. He's right here typing in the chat. What's up, dude? Why you talk so much shit on Twitter? Quit doing it. It's stupid. I seen your whole Twitter feed. You just talk shit all day to people. It's sad. Quit doing it. But you're here now. You're talking now. Or you're typing now, rather. Thank you for watching, by the way. Bubba45. All right, so the article. Let me pull that up. I can't really see it. I know y'all can see it, but I can't. The Game of Thrones prequel. Once again, this is on Variety.com. The Game of Thrones prequel, based on George R. R. Martin's Dunk and Egg books, is officially moving forward at HBO. The announcement was made during Warner Brothers' Discovery presentation to press and investors on April 12th. That's today. I don't think there's anybody else that's got a video up yet, unless they're live. I sound like a cocky son of a bitch, which is stupid. In which it was announced that they combined HBO Max and Discovery Plus streaming service will be known simply as Max. It also comes a little over 2 years after Variety exclusively reported that the series was in development. The show is based on the series of fantasy novella by Martin. Yeah, we know that. It will feature the adventures of Sir Duncan the Tall and Aegon the Sixth. I suck at V. Roman numeral V. I know he's Aegon the Unlikely. Roman numeral V. Fifth. No, that ain't right. Okay, never mind. I'm tripping. A Young. Okay. The series is currently titled A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight. That's a mouthful. The official logline states, a century before the events of Game of Thrones, two unlikely heroes wandered Westeros. A young, naive, but courageous knight, Sir Duncan the Tall, and his diminutive squire, Egg, Set in an age when the Targaryen line still holds the Iron Throne and the memory of the last dragon has not yet passed from living memory, great destinies, powerful foes, and dangerous exploits a la Bloodraven. All of that right, that's Bloodraven. This is the time of the old man. If you just watch the TV series, this is the time where the old man that was in the tree that trained Bran to basically, I guess, become the king, right? In the books, it goes deeper than that. Bran's still in the cave. Like, he's still currently learning how to be the last Green Seer or the next Green Seer. And in all actuality, he'll probably never physically leave the cave. He has to be hooked up to the trees to do what he does. Although it's a possibility, because the caves, or the tunnels rather, underneath Bloodraven's cave, which is, remember, north of the wall, right? Those caves lead to Winterfell. They lead underneath the wall, they go directly to Winterfell. It's sort of alluded at the fact that the Children of the Forest would travel the Seven Kingdoms, many different places, and they used these tunnels. They were the ones who carved these tunnels, so that's really exciting. We'll get to learn stuff like that. There's no way that we get the Dunk and Egg series and don't see Bloodraven going north of the wall. Like, we have to have that moment. And that's right after Egg, the Unlikely, becomes king. Martin has published 3 novellas in the Dunk and Egg Tales. I think the rest of the article is kind of just rehashing stuff we already knew. Yeah, so that's really exciting. So everybody in the chat, anybody that's watching right now, let me see, we got 21 people watching. How excited for you are? How excited for you are? How excited are you for the Dunk and Egg series? That's really exciting. Let me see if something else has come out yet, because it's like a whole event. Just checking online. Google. Nope, I don't think there's been any other official news aside from what I reported earlier in my video from earlier. Is there hope for a Snow TV show? I hope so. I feel like with House of the Dragon and the Dunk and Egg series being the only ones to officially move forward, so like we're going to get at least one season of Dunk and Egg, it should be the case with this Snow show. They're probably, Kit is having another baby. So that's probably why there hasn't been an official announcement yet. What makes me really, really excited is all of these shows are obviously coming out after Game of Thrones Season 8 ended. But since Game of Thrones Season 8 is in canon, they're going to be making, I feel like at least, HBO is going to make Season 8's ending not necessarily make more sense, but make it slightly better when you watch the entire, like, all of the shows once they come out, and we have a complete story, so to speak. I feel like Season 8 and its ending will make a little bit more sense. Because some of the notes, Jon going back north of the wall, Bran being king, but in King's Landing, minus that part. Just the idea of Bran being king, Arya going west to Westeros and just sort of leaving everything behind, kind of, because she's so emotionally damaged. She can't really feel normal enough to stay at home, so she has to, to go on another big adventure kind of thing. Some of those notes make more sense when you read the books. So that's kind of what I hope comes out of all of these new series, right? So we're having Aegon's Conquest being, really the start of the story. Like, obviously, Game of Thrones was the start of the story, but timeline-wise, Aegon's Conquest, all of the events that we're going to be seeing on screen happen after that, unless they're doing pre Doom of Valyria time. So it would be cool. The entire time period after the Doom of Valyria first happens is known as the Century of Blood. So there's all these Valyrian colonies, no dragon riders. There's only one left. There's a few maybe that haven't been named, but they died. They didn't leave a mark on history. There was this one dude who basically named himself the first Emperor of Valyria. He had 40,000 men, a massive dragon. He tried to march his army to go reclaim the ruins of Valyria, but he died mysteriously, sort of disappeared. Right? If they're doing you know, Doom of Valyria tie-in movie. That would be really cool. Because then you'd have almost a complete timeline by the time they finish making all these shows. We'll have Aegon's Conquest, the Dance of the Dragons. The Aegon's Conquest show would probably feature some events from Maegor's timeline and Aenys' timeline. Those are the direct kings after Aegon the Conqueror. And you have Jaehaerys. Jaehaerys is the fourth king of Westeros, and that's literally the start of House of the Dragon. So if they ever do like a House of the Dragon prequel movie or something, I don't really know what it would be about, but you would obviously include Jaehaerys in the height of his reign. Like, so maybe you could do like the children of Jaehaerys or so. I don't know. It's not my job to try to create TV shows. I could definitely contribute to the writing team for sure. If anybody watching this wants to hire me to work, I'm down. Will Gold says stoked. System of Fox says this is the series I was waiting for. Honestly, yes, I saw a lot of the comments on all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. Everybody, the first thing they said, like the top most upvoted comment or whatever, was all the same thing, and it's why are they choosing this? Like everybody was like, what the? I want Blackfire Rebellions. Give me this. Give me that. Like, you know what I mean? Why are they canceling these other shows? And like, I for sure understand that rhetoric, but I was a fanboy for the TV show for the longest, so I can easily relate to what it's like to be an average fan and not have read every single book 8 times or working on your 8th times. Like I'm working on my 8th reread right now. So I can easily relate from a marketing standpoint of how some of those shows would sound to someone who doesn't know anything aside from Game of Thrones and then the first season of House of the Dragon. Some of those other shows sound corny as shit. So you got the dude just to make a point pretending I'm an average show watcher. Doesn't sound corny to me, sounds awesome to me. I definitely want to see it on screen because I already read it. So what I have in my mind visualized on screen, it's like a bonus, right? But if I was just an average show watcher and you told me, hey, the next show that's going to come out is going to be about the Targaryens, yes, but no dragons. I'd be like, what the fuck? So you mean like Game of Thrones? No, that's how the average show watcher would take it. So it's like you're talking about the Targaryens still being in power, but there's no dragons, right? It's different with the Dunk and Egg show because that's literally what that is, and that was what the tagline. Damn, let me think for a second. What's the point I'm trying to make here? I guess the Dunk and Egg isn't risky for an average show watcher because how successful the novella was. So telling the Blackfire Rebellions, it's a war-torn period that sets up, it's like a direct, aside from Robert's Rebellion, it's a direct prequel to Game of Thrones. So House of the Dragon is a prequel, yes, but there's also 170 years of history that happens after House of the Dragon before you get to Game of Thrones. So Dunk and Egg is like a direct prequel to that in the sense that it's only 90 years beforehand. Bloodraven, who's one of the main characters in the Dunk and Egg books, is still alive, and so is Walder Frey. Walder Frey appears in the books as a little kid in the very first Hedge Knight. So Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is all 3 stories together. But in the first book, Walder Frey makes an appearance as a little boy. He's like 5 or 6 years old. And he's obviously, still alive in the main storyline, not on the TV show. Arya killed him, but in the books, he's still alive. So that's what I mean in the sense that it's like a direct prequel. So that's probably easier to sell to the average audience. Also, because of how compelling Dunk is, he's like the only character that George has written so thoroughly of a POV. So obviously, like Tyrion has 52 POV chapters, but there's other characters in between. So you get a wider picture of the world. But when you're reading Dunk and Egg books, it's just from Dunk's perspective. So it makes the character... I said this because the Dunk and Egg books were the first ones that I ever read, and I hadn't read the main series. I was like, dude, the Dunk and Egg books are better than the main series. And it's the reason why I would say that is because, it's all written from one POV, and George really shows how talented he is as a writer doing that. But that's, it's hard to say, he's my favorite character. But also, I haven't read them in a while, so I could, reread them. Let's see, how long have we been live streaming? 14 minutes. Wex is the secret Targaryen. Sir Hans, let's go. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Let's go. System of Fox says, this is a series I was waiting for, honestly. Yes, I think I already responded to that. Tyler Cruz says 26th. 26th what? What do you mean? Solid MT says, all prequels don't feel good without a proper ending. Well, that's the thing. And I don't want to say this because it'll make me sound like a snob. But I feel like the main reason why a lot of the... some of the better parts about the Season 8 finale, right, that were decent writing, still got shit on as much as things like the darkness in Episode 3. And I don't know if it's safe to say this, I'm just speaking from a personal perspective, but there were nowhere near as many people that had read the books when the show was still on as there is now. Is that a safe statement to say? Maybe. But I feel like the most vocal people that you've seen online talking shit and making petitions on change.org, I don't know if a large chunk of them had read the books. Because honestly, if you had, the one thing that makes me feel better is the story's not over. So no matter how much I hate Season 8 or some of the writing notes of Season 8, like where they took the story's not done yet. So I'm eventually probably going to get the satisfying conclusion that I want from the author, the originator, the creator of this universe, right? But then also, now after having read it and then thinking about some of the scenes from Season 8, rewatching some of the clips on YouTube and stuff, it actually kind of was like, okay, I can see what they were going for. The problem is they fucked the story up so much that you can't really get there in your mind with, 6 episodes in the final season and 7 in Season 7. You can't get there with that much stuff missing context-wise. But I will say, for sure, rereading the books has... at least given me some sort of like, oh, I could see why they did that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Wex is a secret Targaryen, says rotten or roten. Sir Hunt's out here making up words. Yeah, I do that all the time. I do that constantly. Tyler Cruz says Jaehaerys beheading Stinger needs to make a screen adaptation. So Tyler Cruz, you're talking about when the bee, this is one of the Beesbury Knights sleeps with one of Jaehaerys' daughters, and he basically says, I choose a trial by combat, and like Jaehaerys when he's like giving the trial kind of thing, and the Stinger is like, I choose a trial by combat, and then he's like, I'm gonna, obviously he's his own champion, but he doesn't realize Jaehaerys is going to be his own champion, right? So Jaehaerys fights this dude and beheads him in one strike. So yeah, that would be dope. I would like to see that on screen. Tyler Cruz. Zarky Poo says, so will the series be more upbeat and nice? Yes, it's like a lone wolf and cub. And let me do this. It's like a lone wolf and cub story. Good dude, what in the... Go to full screen. Transform. Stretch the screen. There we go. It's like a lone wolf and cub story, right? So how it starts out is Dunk is this lunk. He's this dude. He's poor. He's the squire for this dude named Sir Arlen of Pennytree. Sir Arlen of Pennytree is a hedge knight, and hedge knights' reputations in the main story are that they're not the most trustworthy individuals. They're kind of like sellswords. They'll sell their sword or sell their shield to this lord or that lord, right? But in the Seven Kingdoms, and they're usually, for the most part, not quite as turntail as some of the sellswords that we learn about over in Essos. And what I mean by that is literally the second son switches allegiance like 3 times. Brown Ben Plum betrays Daenerys. Well, initially not on her side, then he joins her side, then he betrays her, but then he goes back to her side. So the sellswords flake and peel like a piece of paper in the wind, right? But hedge knights, their reputation during the main story is not so savory, right? So this being 90 years in the past of that, I would assume their reputation is a little bit better. But anyway, Sir Arlen of Pennytree has Dunk as his squire, and the story starts out with Sir Arlen dying. So Dunk is digging his grave, and it's raining outside. So Dunk's kind of thinking to himself, he's like, what do I do now? Fuck. And he ends up taking... After he buries Sir Arlen of Pennytree, he takes his coat of arms, his shield, and his 2 horses, and he walks to the next town. And when he walks to the town, as soon as he gets there, It might not be a town, it might be an inn or some shit. But Egg is there, and he's the stable boy, and he's bald. And also, Dunk has really dark purple eyes, so his eyes, to most people, unless you really, really look at them, look black. They look dark brown, like mine, right? Actually, darker than mine, because mine are like a light brown. The lighting in here makes them look darker than they actually are. But anyway, so he, like, as soon as he arrives at the inn or the town or whatever, he's like, yo, stable boy, stable my horses, feed them, and if you're good, I'll give you a copper, but if you aren't, I'll give you a cloud on the ear. So Egg's like, kind of plays a joke with him. He's like, I can do that, but I'm not going to, or something like that. So anyway, he ends up doing it. So he goes in, Dunk goes into the tavern, gets a meal, sits down, and the lady is like, yeah, that's not my son. That's just this homeless. Anyway, long story short, Dunk ends up taking on Egg as a squire. They go on a bit of a journey. They ultimately go to this tourney. The tourney is... it's a tricky thing because Dunk doesn't really have enough money to do anything, right? So he's kind of got to decide, do I want to sell one of Sir Arlen of Pennytree's horses to have a good meal, some food for like a few days, a roof over my head, and like I'll sort of set out from there? Or do I want to, join this tourney and potentially win way more money than I could ever have from selling Sir Arlen's things? And it's more like a guilt complex that Dunk has that makes him do kind of the right thing because he feels guilty for, these two horses that he spent a bunch of time with. Sir Arlen of Pennytree picked him up out of the streets of King's Landing and sort of took him under his wing. So Dunk feels bad to sell his possessions, Sir Arlen's possessions. So he kind of ends up joining the tourney, right? But like I said, he doesn't have any money. So he has to buy armor. He has to like trade the horse for armor. And it's like when you lose in the tourneys, I don't know, I can't remember if they made it something that's mentioned in the main TV series. But in the books, when you lose your armor in a tourney, you have to buy it back. You have to auction it back. Like, you have to basically ransom it back. So after you lose, the person you lose to gets all of your stuff. So they get your tree. They get your weed. They get your wine, and they smoke it in your face, and they're going to keep smoking until you can pay them the money to get it back. But no. They get your armor, they get your horse and stuff, right? And if you're poor, like Dunk, that's a terrible thing to happen. So Dunk has that in the back of his mind. But anyway, Dunk does pretty good the first round of, what is it, a joust or something? He does pretty good. Ultimately, he continues, advancing to the next round of the tourney. But in between the night of, right, he goes in, I forgot to mention this, but he's seen... puppeteer. He ran into this bitch named Tansel Too Tall, and he had a crush on her, and she did this puppet thing where she has a show in which someone beheads a dragon, and it's these puppets, mind you. So a puppet beheads a puppet dragon, and then fake puppet blood squirts out, right? So Dunk had seen this play the night before, right? And he goes back into the town, and he sees her again. This time, there's this douche, right, named Arion Brightflame, who... well, he's kind of got a point. He's kind of right. Tansel Too Tall is stupid. The Targaryens are in power right now. There's no actual dragons, but her being from Dorne or wherever, she's dumb to mock the dragon right next to the dragon. You're kind of stupid, Tansel Too Tall. Apparently, you're stupid like Dunk the Lunk. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to be edgy with my opinions. Anyway, Tansel is getting mistreated by Arion Brightflame. And Arion Brightflame is Egg's older brother, right? But also, he's a Targaryen prince, so you can't touch him, right? So he strikes Tansel, knocks her to the ground, destroys her puppet, right? This dude, Arion Brightflame. He ends up dying from drinking wildfire because he's so stupid. But anyway, that's a while, ways down the line. So then Dunk strikes him. Dunk hits the prince. He knocks him out. Knocks his, I think he chips his tooth or something, but he knocks him to the ground. Then Dunk is immediately arrested, and instead of going to the next round of the tourney, he's in jail, right? And then around this time is when Egg's true identity is revealed. Dunk is sitting in a cell for the remainder of the tourney. In that scene in particular, this is all what happens at the Hedge Knight. That scene in particular of Dunk sitting in the cell looking at this little window or whatever that he has that allows in sound and light and stuff. He can kind of tell like what events are happening in the tourney. It reminds me of when I was a teenager on probation and I got sent to solitary confinement for 72 hours. I had to sit in it was a real jail cell. It's just for teens, right? And I had like this shitty little window that I could look out and see like, yo, I was never an outdoors kid, but being in that situation and looking out the window and be like, man, I wish I could just run through that fucking field right there, but I can't because I'm a dumbass and I'm on probation, right? So I could really relate to that. That was cool. So anyway, Aegon's eggs identities revealed, and Dunk is allowed to do a trial by combat. He fights in a 7x7 trial by combat. It's amazing. You got dope ass characters like the Laughing Storm. And then there's a couple of fossil ways that are taking place. There's a bad apple and a good apple. This is one of the twists that's awesome. I wasn't gonna make this a Dunk and Egg stream. I just wanted to talk about the announcement of the show, right? But one of the really cool things that happens is this one fossil way dude initially says that he's gonna champion for Dunk. So Dunk has to find 6 other people to help him fight, and he's a former squire to a hedge knight, so nobody really knows who he is. So he's got to convince 6 other people to fight with him in this trial, which is literally just a melee, to go and basically die for him, because they're fighting 7 other people who are way more, if I'm not mistaken, you have Aerion Brightflame, and then obviously you have Maekar, who is Aerion Brightflame's dad, and it's also Egg's dad, right? But just imagine, you're in Dunk's shoes and you don't know anybody. You kind of reacted like an idiot because you punched a Targaryen prince, and now you find yourself in this situation. So, he's got to convince people. One of the dudes that he ends up convincing is the Prince of Dragonstone to join his side. And mind you, I remember a lot of this stuff, but I can't remember that motherfucker's name. I remember Maekar. I remember Prince Maekar because that's Egg's father, but I don't remember who his opponent is at the time, and he's actually the Prince of Dragonstone, the next in line for the Iron Throne. So anyway, the 7x7 battle happens. It's amazing. It's one of the best written battles I've ever read. I've read all of the Dune series. I've read all of, obviously, Song of Ice and Fire. I'm not very well read at all, but from what I have read, this 7x7 combat is the shit, right? So, I'll tell you what happens with Dunk and then the ending of it, because I can't remember the specifics. Like I said, I really need to reread it. And here's the thing, it's sitting right here. That's gonna fall. Don't fall, bitch. Stay up there. Stay up there, bitch. Stay up there. Ha! You like that? That's called slicky fingers. So yeah, it's right here. All right, so book 1. Let me. Humphrey Harding, Lionel, the Laughing Storm, Lionel Baratheon. Yeah, I remember him. All right. Here we go. This is the exact scene that I was talking about, where when I was in solitary confinement as a kid. This is him looking out the window. So Dunk has got to go around and convince 6 other people to go and fight for him. He ends up getting Prince Baelor. That's who it is. Baelor Breakspear is the one who fights on his behalf, and he's the Prince of Dragonstone, so next in line for the Iron Throne, right? And what this means is that if he dies, it's no direct heir, so there's like a question of success. It's a really big deal that this dude is deciding to fight against his brother Prince Maekar and his nephew Aerion Brightflame, right? So what ends up happening is Dunk beats the shit out of Aerion Brightflame. He literally, instead of killing him, which he totally could because it's a trial by 7, he actually wants him to rescind his words, right? He beats him to a bloody pulp. To be fair, Aerion Brightflame gets the upper hand on Dunk. Dunk kind of just is such a savage, big brute that he's able to beat Aerion, right? But Aerion also cheats a little bit. So anyway, he's beating the shit out of Aerion. He gets him to submit, and he drags him over to where the judges are sitting at, right? And he's like, confess, tell them the truth of what happened, right? And basically he made up a lie about that he was not really involved in Tansel Too Tall being abusive towards her, and that Dunk basically just attacked him out of nowhere, kind of. So Dunk makes him tell the truth instead of killing him, which I totally would have killed Aryan Brightflame because of what he did, right? Not because of what he did to Tansel, but just because he's an overall cunt, okay? So while that's happening, the other combatants are fighting, and get this, Maekar and Baelor square off, all right? It gives me chills talking about this because of how well written it is, right? So the two brothers are facing off, and after the trial is done, they're both standing. So after Aryan is forced to tell the truth by Dunk, the trial is over, so everybody stops fighting. They all kind of disperse and go back, right? And Dunk is having a conversation with Baelor, Dunk is completely, like, he kind of goes into a coma because of how messed up he is after the battle. But he kind of just is looking around and sees, what's going on a little bit. He's kind of aware of what's happening, and this is when Baelor asks someone. Baelor's got blood coming out of his armor, but he's talking. His voice sounds a little bit off to Dunk, but he's still talking, and he seems kind of aware of what's happening, right? So then he has people help him take off his armor, and eventually they get to his helmet. When they take off his helmet, a piece of his skull, a piece of Baelor, right? So this dude that helped Dunk, who really he didn't have to because he's the fucking Prince of Dragonstone. He's just at this tourney, right? He doesn't have to do this. So he willingly fights his brother and his uncle to prove a point that Dunk, it's kind of like Dunk convinces them to do it, but not consciously. So if Dunk was replaced by another character in A Song of Ice and Fire, they would manipulate Baelor into joining him, right? But that's not the case. Baelor's a really good dude. So anyway, he ends up having his helmet removed, and when they remove Baelor's helmet, a piece of his skull falls to the ground, and then all of this blood comes out, and then it's revealed that there's gray matter exposed where his skull should be, and that gray matter is a brain. So he literally just says something like, "Oh, I feel weird," and then collapses. And that's the what happens. And I know I left out a bunch of shit, but that's what happens, and that's how the first Hedge Knight ends, and that's what we're gonna get to see on screen. Oh shit! Super chat from Darth Bane. Thank you, sir. Most underrated YouTuber. Thanks for these streams. I like how you keep it real in the way you present your opinions. Appreciate it. Thank you. Pete Easy says, yo, sup, Sir Hunts? I love this story. Hell yeah. Baelor, go to Dunk. Yes. Luca 10 says, hi. John Haymaker says, what kid actor would you want to play Egg? Harry Potter. No, I'm just kidding. That's a good one. I'm going to take some time. Let me think of that. The little kid from the Northmen. He looks like a Targaryen. He's got blonde hair. The little kid from the Northmen. Now, I've actually thought about who I would cast as Dunk. As far as height-wise, there's only two actors that have that ability. One of them is the actor who plays Chewbacca. The new Chewbacca. Obviously not the old one. The new Chewbacca from the sequel movies could play Dunk. I think he has a thick accent, so I don't know how that would work, right? Then my other choice, and this guy's actually been in Game of Thrones, so this is kind of stupid, but his height pulls it off, right? The dude who plays Dickon Tarley. I don't know what the fuck his name is. Let me look it up right now. Dickon Tarley. Who's the actor? Freddie Soma. Freddie Stroma? What the fuck? No. Tom Hopper. Yeah. Freddie Stroma is the dude who played him. Although he looks like Sam. Why did they recast Dickon Tarley? Let me read this old article. Yeah, that guy actually looks like Sam. But here's the thing. He's like a 12-year-old little kid in the books. Like, he's a little man. You know, Sam is around John's age when he goes to the wall. Dickon was too old on the TV show. But anyway, that guy. Forgot his name already. What was his name? Tom Hopper. That's who I would cast. Tom Hopper or the actor who plays Chewbacca. And I'm going to tell you his name here in a second. not Peter Mayhew, the other one, Junius Suotamo. And I have to hear what he sounds like. And you know what? Those two actors kind of do look alike, but height-wise. Like, you have to. That's the one thing. You can cast Dunk as almost any race, all right? He's got a description. He kind of has, like, dirty blonde hair and, like, a furrowed brow or whatever, and he's, like, 21 or something. But his height, that has to be the main thing. Like, you could make him any race, but he has to be tall. Part of his whole... the whole background of his character is how tall he is. Because he's not the best fighter. He's not the smartest person. But his size is what gets him out of a lot of situations. Not a lot of situations. There's only been 3 books. But his height attributes to his ability to, for instance, win the trial by 7. He's not the most skilled warrior. But his height and his strength allows him to overcome situations. So you have to, and for him to be physically imposing like he is to other characters, you have to have him towering over people. So I pick Junius Viljami Suotomo and Tom Perry. No, what was the other guy's name? Tom Hopper. Yeah, Tom Hopper. Dick and Tarley. Thank you for submitting that, John Haymaker. Then Emily Bartram says, oh, how cool would it be if Bennis of the Brown Shield gets his on TV. How cool to see Lady Rohan Weber. Yeah, I want to see her too. And how she becomes a Lannister. So, yeah, Rohan Weber. So that's in the second. Not the Hedge Knight, but in the Sworn Shield or the Sworn Sword. But the second Dunk and Egg books is what you're talking about. So basically, at the end of the Hedge Knight, Dunk and Egg are allowed to continue their journey. So Dunk has a conversation with Maekar, who is Egg's father, and they basically agree that they don't want Egg to turn out like Aerion Brightflame or like his other brother, his older brother Daeron the Drunken, who has dragon dreams. That's why he drinks so much. But he doesn't want his youngest son Aegon to turn out like them. So my daughter's crying. Sorry, it's distracted me. Prince Maekar allows Egg to be squired by Dunk, and they travel the 7 kingdoms. And Egg continues to shave his head to hide his identity. So when we catch up with them in book 2, they've made their way down to Dorne, and Dunk is in service to this old dude who has problems with this. We think she's like this she-witch bitch, but then when Dunk meets her, he realizes she's this really attractive woman. And then Dunk, at the end of that book, they end up getting married. But eventually, she's goes on to have another husband after the dude that Dunk works for, and she marries into the Lannisters, and Cersei is supposedly directly related to her. So that's what Emily Bartram was saying. Brian Johnson, hey Sir Hunts, I just got off work and I'm glad to catch you live. Awesome. Thank you for joining me, my girl. I'm not going to be streaming that much longer, unfortunately. This was going to be a video, but I've put out 25 videos in the past 2 days. I honestly didn't have time to do this live stream. I'm sorry, didn't have time to make a video for the announcement of the Dunk and Egg show, so I just decided to do this live stream. Obviously, the topic for my next live stream is going to be directly talking about, start with Aegon's Conquest. And then I'm going to break down my favorite characters from the Knight of 7 Kingdoms, which is really exciting because I was kind of getting a little bit bored to try to do research for topics, for the main Song of Ice and Fire series, because ultimately I've talked about everything and I want wins a winner. So this is really exciting to be able to go back and have we can try to figure out, mapping out what the first season will look like. So that's really cool. Dennis Sorensen, Sir Hans, what's up, man? Matthew Stewart says, Dunk the Lunk, thick as a stump. Dunk the Lunk, thick as a castle wall. He probably does have a tree penis. Why not? Matthew Stewart says, brother, I'm so excited. Dunk and Eggs are my favorite stuff Martin has written. Yes, and I think it's because it's all from his POV. It's mostly all from Dunk's POV. And the reason why Song of Ice and Fire is so good is because it's written from 15 odd POVs, and you get all these different perspectives, and you see so much more of a world, and it feels more flushed out and gigantic and massive and complete, right? But first person point of view stories, a lot of stories are written that way for a reason. It's nice to feel like you know a character inside and out. And I feel like I know Dunk inside and out because all of these books are written from his perspective. Isn't Dunk Brienne of Tarth's grandfather? I don't know if George has said direct. That's from Bubble 45. I don't know if that's George has said directly that that's her grandfather, but he does mention that Brienne of Tarth is descended from Sir Duncan the Tall, who after the events of the Knights of the Seven Kingdoms, which we haven't gotten all of yet, the next one's supposedly called She-Wolves of Winter. There's only been 3, and they're novellas, so they're only like 80 to 100 pages or something. They're not that long at all. You can sit down and read the Knights of the Seven Kingdoms in 3.5 hours. That's what I did. Fuck, what was the point I was going to make? So it's not a direct, the Dunk was her grandfather. But timeline-wise, how old he was, how old Brienne's father is, you could assume, and with Martin saying that, yes, that's where Brienne gets her height from. She's descended from Duncan the Tall. You also got to realize Hodor, right? Waldor is descended from Sir Duncan the Tall as well, or at least people assume that because one of the next, so like at the end of the last Night of the Seven Kingdoms book, they talk about going up north, and that's why the book was going to be called The She-Wolves of Winter. And I think the reason why Dunk wants to do that is because he hears rumors that Tansel Too Tall might have gone up there, right? Because initially when the Hedge Knight ends, the reason why they go down south to Dorne is to look for Tansel, because after all of this happens, Tansel like disappears kind of. So they initially go to Dorne looking for her, but then obviously they don't find her. Dunk ends up serving for this one old lord, and like I said, the events with Lady Rohan Weber happen. And then at the end of the third book, which the third book in my opinion is the best one because that's with Bloodraven. So there's a tourney happening again, but the prize is a dragon eggs. This dude named Lord Butterwell is giving away a dragon egg, a real dragon egg, to the victor of the tourney. And Bloodraven, who's the hand of the king, obviously doesn't want that to happen because Lord Butterwell's an idiot. And the only reason why he got the egg is because Aegon the Fourth, so Aegon the Unlikely, this would be Aegon the Third. No, it'd be Aegon the Fourth. Aegon the Unlikely is egg. The bastard Targaryen king who literally legitimizes all of his bastards on his deathbed and causes the Blackfyre rebellions directly to happen, right? So this dude was such an idiot that he was giving away dragon eggs. Really, like when he first starts out, this Aegon is... when he starts out as a king, he's really promising. Like, he's a really good jouster. He's a really good reader. He's a learned individual. But the one thing he can't do is slake his own lust. Like, his dick rules his body. He always wants to go fuck something, right? Like, he's often quoted as saying, this is Aegon the Unworthy, right? He's often quoted as saying, I don't consider my night complete unless I've spent myself inside of a woman, right? So, that dude's awesome. So, he ends up giving Lord Butterwell a fucking dragon egg. And then you skip forward to like 30 or some odd years after that during the events of Dunk and Egg. And Dunk and Egg are at this tourney. And Bloodraven shows up under the guise of this dude, Maynard Plum. And there's just a bunch of like... I can't really remember specific events, but I just know that like... There's a dwarf troop that's hired to sneak in and distract everybody, right? Because the dragon egg goes missing. And when the mystery's revealed that the dragon egg is just a painted rock. But these dwarves that Dunk keeps noticing the whole night that are doing all these crazy random magic shit are actually working with Bloodraven. And they sneak the egg out. And so Bloodraven recovers the dragon egg. And then also that was the second Blackfyre Rebellion, or the third Blackfyre Rebellion, literally gets squashed that night because Bloodraven is working with Maynard Plum, and the whole reason of the tourney is they're going to raise Daemon Blackfyre the second, right? So when Aegon the Unworthy dies, he names several of his bastards as legitimate heirs, right? But his direct heir, I think is it Daeron? It's one of these motherfucking Targaryen inbred motherfuckers. He is sort of in direct competition with this one main awesome bastard known as Daemon Blackfyre, who has the Blackfyre sword, which is a symbol of the legitimacy because it was Aegon the Conqueror's sword. And also, he's just a better... a lot of people think he's the true, like, blood of the dragon kind of thing because the Daeron that's in power looks like a Dornish person because his mom was Dornish. So he's got black hair and stuff, and he doesn't look like a Targaryen, but he's king. So everybody sort of rallies around the dude Daemon Blackfyre, who does look like a Targaryen. Anyway, it's besides the point, right? He ends up dying in a duel with Bloodraven, and his descendants want to start another Blackfyre rebellion, and that's kind of where Dunk and Egg, the third book, ends with that Bloodraven plot. Like I said, I can't exactly remember the exact events, but now that I know my next stream, like planned stream, is going to be Dunk and Egg themed, I'll get ready for it. I'll study up. Also, I'm going to be doing a stream where my patrons are going to be joining me on for the stream, so that's really exciting. I'll obviously have to push that back because I got, a lot of stuff to cover. Or maybe that would be the topic for one of those. But the next stream I'm going to do is probably going to be, it's probably going to be this weekend. It's probably going to be Saturday. I don't think anybody streams on Saturday. I know my buddy Aziz, and then Lucifer Means Lightbringer. I know he streams on Sundays as well, or at least he was like 6 months ago, last time I checked. So Saturday, I think, is a good day. I don't think anybody's streaming on Saturday. I know I was doing Tuesday, and I know my buddy Robert from In Deep Geek does Thursday. And like I said, I know Aziz and Lucifer Means Lightbringer does Sunday. So I feel like Saturday is a good day. I don't know. Maybe this Saturday, maybe not. I got job and kids. So we'll see. John Haymaker said Elliot Rose. What? Matthew Stewart says the pacing in the Dunk and Egg stories is brisk. I read the 3 stories. I read the 3 stories once a year. That and The Hobbit are my yearly rereads. I think we will see it come into... Oh, wait, you guys are talking to yourself, sorry. John Haymaker says, Lucifer Means Lightbringer is streaming right now. Okay. So is Sir Hunts. Elliot Rose as Dunk. Wait, did they cast? Who's Elliot Rose? Oh, that's your pick for your casting, Elliot Rose? Who's that? I've never heard of that person. Oh, the kid from the Northman. Oh, okay, yeah, cool. As Egg. Yeah, hell yeah. That's who I picked. Wait, as Dunk? Why would you pick him as Dunk? That doesn't even make sense. Wait. No, he's too young, dude. Who is this person? That's not the little kid. That's not the little boy from the Northman. The little blonde boy. It's not the little blonde boy from the Northman. Who is this? Who the hell does he play in the Northman? Is that the little boy from the Northman? Does he look that different with a blonde wig thing? No, this is not the guy. This is not the... Why doesn't Alexander Skarsgård have any pants on in his IMDb picture? What the fuck? Wait, that is the little kid then. Because there's no other little kids. I don't think his name was that, though. No, that's not the... No, let me do this. Young... Oscar Novak is the dude I'm thinking of. I don't know who Elliot Rose is, but this is the little dude that I was talking about. That's the little kid who I'd pick for Egg. I don't know who the other guy kind of looks like him, but you could see that he's got like lighter hair. So, for Egg, who is Elliot Rose though? Who is he from? Pete Easy says Bloodraven for the ring. Hell yeah, who would you cast as Bloodraven? Because Bloodraven will probably be a character from season 1. Dope. He won't be involved with the storyline until later, but for sure he's gonna be shown as one of the like most interesting characters, not just in Dunk and Egg, but in all of the entirety of the series. Like, a lot of people think he planned everything. I don't, but a lot of people do. Let's see if I mentioned any comments. Tom Hopper is 6'4". No, he wouldn't have to be. Most actors aren't actually 6'4". He would tower over most. Like, actors will do some shit like put on shoes and have taller hair and then measure from the top of their head to the bottom of the shoes and be like, that's why I'm this tall, right? And they do that because they can get better roles. But most actors are shorter than you realize in real life. Especially, there's a few actors that are taller, but for the most part, actors are short. At least, like, a prime example is Joe Rogan. He says he's 5'8", but he stands next to people who are legitimately 5'8", and he looks 5'5". So if I had to assume, Joe Rogan's probably 5'4", right? And he puts shoes on, and he becomes 5'8". He puts on 2-inch shoes that have 2-inch heels in them, like the sole thing that lifts your foot up, right? Like, I don't think he would need to wear. He's already 6'4". Tom Hopper's pretty fucking tall. He would tower over 90% of people in scenes. And then to be fair, he might be too old because Dunk is supposed to be like 19 or 20, you know? So, Paul Bettany for Bloodraven? That would be a terrible casting. He's a good actor, but he's the Vision. 5'3" with the Tom Cruise shoes. Tom Cruise is short too. Yeah, I mean, if you're lying on your resume to get a role that they need for somebody who's tall, like Kit Harington is another short dude. Kit Harington had to be put in. He had to have shoes that would make him taller than Emilia Clarke because he's so short that when Emilia Clarke would wear her shoes and he would wear his shoes, right? They were like the same height. So Kit Harington had to get these special shoes that Peter Dinklage helped make because Tyrion wears them sometimes. People don't realize this, but Peter Dinklage's actual height is 6'5". Like, they have to CGI make him smaller because he actually had the limb lengthening surgery. So he has 7-foot bones in his from his kneecap to his ankle, and it actually kind of looks like he was walking on stilts, but he's not. So they have to sort of digitally make him shorter. Peter Dinklage is not actually that height. I just thought y'all should know that. The casting in Dunk and Egg has to be perfect. Messing up the casting would be doomed for the show. Yeah, well, it doesn't have to actually be perfect. They just need to be good actors. Dunk needs to be extremely tall, and Egg needs to be young enough for the story to work, because you need that lone wolf and cub dynamic. Egg, honestly, sees how shitty his brothers are, doesn't want to be like them, so he has to be old enough to be able to see the world that way, but he also doesn't need to be like, Jon Snow's age at the start of the show. Like, Kit Harington is like, 25 playing a 16-year-old or whatever. That quickly doesn't work, because if you were to do a Jon Snow show now, coming back, the character Jon Snow technically would be like 21. You know what I mean? Like, Kit Harington's 35, so that doesn't really work that way. But I feel like the two main thing is they need to get an actor who's capable, who's a younger actor to play. Whoever's going to be playing Egg needs to be capable enough believable enough to, nail that role, in the sense that this is a kid who's wise beyond his years, but also still looks like a kid. And then for Dunk, just needs to be a good actor, but also be tall. You have to tower over 90% of the people you're in a scene with, because otherwise, what in the fuck are we watching? It's Dunk the Tall, right? He's called Sir Duncan the Tall. He needs to be tall at bare minimum. But they don't have to get the casting perfect. Like a lot of the people, like literally 75% of the fandom, even people that pretend they've been sucking Matt Smith's dick this whole time, fucking hated his casting as Daemon. As soon as I saw or heard the news and then looked up who he was, I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna nail this shit. You know why? He looks like he'll punch you in your fucking mouth if you don't watch what you say around him, right? That was my take of his character from just looking at one picture of him, right? And then I wasn't necessarily wrong because he played rugby, right? And I hadn't seen him in Doctor Who or whatever, but I assumed from the look of the dude that his Doctor Who was edgier and darker, but I don't think that was the case. But I was fucking right in the sense that he nailed the role. Now everybody's sucking his dick because he's a good actor, right? He nailed the fucking role, right? It was amazing and insane the amount of shit that you see being talking about some people when they first get cast for stuff. So when you say that the casting has to be perfect, that's not necessarily true. The casting, they did like the two big things is the height, and then you get an actor who's talented enough but also young for Dunk and Egg. That's the main qualifications. Obviously, Egg has to be white because he's a Targaryen, and all the Targaryens are white. By the time House of the Dragon ends, you'll see that the Velaryons and the Targaryens that look like me are dead, and they don't necessarily mate with someone who's directly on the Iron Throne. At least that's the way that I know the show's going to do it, because literally Jaehaerys should have looked like me if we're sticking with canon, because his mother, Alyssa, was a Velaryon, so she should have been looking like Corlys, you would assume, right? But that's not the case. The show's going to do it differently, so it has to be a white kid. But Dunk could be any race. You could pick a black person, you could pick a Latino person, you could pick an Asian person, you could pick a Jewish person, all the other races. You could pick one of those, and it wouldn't matter. They just need to be tall, right? But I mean, you would assume that Brienne of Tarth and, Hodor being white, that Dunk is canonically white, but you can do whatever you want for the TV show. Tommy Stein says, unrelated, but in my opinion, Aemon is Daemon's son. In season 3 or 4, they reveal it. The two actors look too much alike to each other. I don't think George R. R. Martin and the series producer done this on accident. Well, so I thought before we even got confirmation that we would, before we really knew who was going to be playing Aemon, like Matt Smith and Emma Darcy and Olivia Cook were like the first cast members that were announced, and then Corlys. Paddy Considine was announced first. Paddy Considine was the very first actor announced for the show by months, right? They announced he's going to be playing Viserys 1, and that confirmed that the show was going to be focusing on the Dance of Dragons and not some other period in the Targaryen history. What was this in response to? The thing. So before we saw that Ewan Mitchell was going to be playing Aemon, and we knew that obviously he looks like Matt Smith, I thought that they could be related from just reading Fire and Blood. When you realize stuff that when the way it's worded is Alicent was promiscuous, and she would sleep with Viserys before Aemma Arryn even died. That's suggested in canon, in Fire and Blood, that's suggested, right? And then also, you realize that Daemon doesn't have a half-hard reputation like he does in the TV show. He has absolutely no problem getting a fully erect penis, right? But he does in the TV show, so they sort of took away from his masculinity a little bit, right? Made him more human, though, right? But in the books, it's mentioned that he specifically loves deflowering virgins. So you hear that Daemon is everything his brother wants to be, but more, right? And then he rides Caraxes, and Viserys doesn't ride another dragon. And then you realize that Alicent was probably really promiscuous because she probably used to suck off Jaehaerys when she would read him bedtime stories. It ain't that far of a stretch that she could be sleeping with Daemon actively while sleeping with loser boy Viserys. This is all in canon stuff before the TV show came out. So that's why I connected those dots, and I was like, yo, you know what? This Aemon fella sounds a lot like this Daemon fella, and Aegon certainly isn't as much like Daemon as Aemon is. So I was just like, hey, you know what? Maybe they're secret sons. And then the casting was announced that Ewan Mitchell was going to be playing Aemon. I was like, oh yeah, totally could see that. And then someone had mentioned in my videos for that, you could literally just take the D, right, from Daemon and put it on the end, and you have Aemon's name. It's sort of like an anagram or whatever it's called for each other. just reverse it, right? And then on the TV show also, you have Alicent asking Daemon if she wants to come look at porn with him. So what I'm getting at here is it's possible. I just don't know if it'll be revealed like you said in season 3 or 4. I think it'll be promiscuity to be hinted at during the blood and cheese scene when Aemon takes the news of the death of Jaehaerys a lot worse than Aegon does. That could hint at the idea that Helena and Aemon were secretly hooking up, which would further open the door of maybe a potential flashback of a scene between Emily Carey and Daemon or something. Like, I don't know, it's possible. She gets around. Yes. Matt Smith, if not cast as Daemon, would make a fine Bloodraven. Matt Smith is, now that I see him, like in his role, all encompassing, this badass, active dude, I can't necessarily see him as Bloodraven. Like, Bloodraven is who he is. He's a sort of a warrior, but he's also got a lot of magical abilities. So I don't know if when you fight him, if it would be as like a brutish, slugging kind of fight. I feel like he would be more of a plotter, someone who could think, someone more like a jiu-jitsu nerd. Whereas Matt Smith is like full-on hardcore wrestler. He's got good stand-up game, but he's also a wrestler, right? So with Bloodraven, he's probably more of like I'm a jiu-jitsu nerd. I know if I do my hold this way, I'm going to be able to lock you that way, and you're going to go this way, but I've already got you. I've already choked you out here. I feel like that's how Bloodraven would fight in a fight. So basing it off of that, I don't think Matt Smith would be the best fit for Bloodraven. I would pick someone like, to be honest, Paul Bettany. Whoever had suggested that earlier that I slightly made fun of, that's like a good choice for Bloodraven because you think of like a slender nerd kind of dude that'll secretly fuck you up, but also like kind of unassuming. Like Bloodraven has that massive reputation, like Thousand Eyes in One. Bloodraven is everywhere, could know everything all at once, right? It's because he's a really powerful warg. He's a green seer, right? But also, if you knew him and you got past that, he holds his words like a coin miser, waits to say stuff till it'll have the greatest effect, all that stuff. But anyway, this live stream has been an hour. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up right here. John Haymaker mentioned that Lucifer Means Lightbringer is live streaming right now, so go watch his stuff. I'm pretty sure if you're watching my channel, you probably watch his channel. I'm going to get the hell out of here. I need to do some research for the live stream that I'm going to be doing. I'll probably do a double one. I'll do half of it Aegon and then half of it the Dunkin' Egg stuff. So that'll be coming up maybe on Saturday. It depends. I know I usually have to work Saturday morning, so it'd be Saturday evening. Probably like around 5 or 6. But thank you all for watching and joining me, hanging out with me. Big shout out again, and thank you to Darth Bane for that super chat, my dude. Once again, most underrated YouTuber, thanks for these streams. I like how you keep it real and the way you present your opinions. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Long night. Zaltrizas postare exos. Oh, yeah. All the other news. Let me check real quick. Let me see if there's any other news that is coming out. Let's see, House of the Dragon. News. No new news. Let me check Twitter. I'm not seeing anything. Yep. Nope, I don't see nothing. Let me check Facebook one more time. What the? All right. So there was no new news that popped up while I was doing this. So awesome. Like I said, full out stream where I actually remember names and events of stuff and not just kind of what I remember from off the top of my dome. Like I'll reread Night of the Seven Kingdoms right before redoing it. I don't really need to reread Aegon's Conquest. I can pretty much tell you what happens to that start to finish, but I forget characters' names. So maybe I should refresh myself. Thank you for watching. Along that, let me wait 5 seconds to let the stream catch up with the last thing that I said. I think